38 Degrees South, a romance short story by Jodi Cleghorn. Heidi stopped at the caravan door and contemplated the showering paraphernalia in her arms. Why bother? Solace wouldn't be found in a caravan park shower block the first week in January with a whinging 5-year-old in tow. It had taken the first real sleep in for 6 months to see the stupidity of forcing their home routine here. Besides, it was after 10 a.m. If they hurried, they might still beat JD and the girls to the beach. Noah sat on the edge of the unmade bed, waiting for the inevitable hustle to his second least favourite part of the day. She dumped the toiletries bag and towels beside him. How about we skip a shower? No shower! Noah leapt up and broke into an impromptu victory dance. Woo! Reckon you could handle going straight to the beach? The exaggerated air punch and the yes made her laugh. How about you go get our swimmers off the line? I'll pack some lunch. He bounced down the caravan stairs whistling. The semi-musical hiss stopped when he negotiated the plastic strips hanging in the door, moving from happy bar to stealth operative in a heartbeat. Not for the first time, she wished she could be more like him, less like herself. Go from one thing to another with little thought for what was left behind. Baggage came with responsibility. It came with being an adult. She struggled to balance responsibility with the fun way JD did with his girls. Meeting him had motivated her to be less uptight. Mom! JD's here! She smiled at the way Noah elongated the vowels in the abbreviation and grabbed her robe, tying it over her boxer shorts and singlet. In the warm, muted annex light, JD looked as out of place as Noah did. Over the years, the sun and salt had bleached the green and orange stripes to peach and spearmint. Despite renovating the van's interior, a brand new kitchen, floor coverings, upholstery for the U-shaped dining area, and an upgraded inner spring mattress, her father had kept the canvas annex as a time capsule. She swore she could still smell burger rings, Latan sunscreen, green impulse body spray, and Southern Comfort. At the far end was the same set of bunks she and Harry had fought over until their father had hammered out a timeshare agreement of the top bunk to end the sibling squabbles. They spent endless rainy Easters on the floor, playing Uno and Monopoly with their holiday mates. There'd been endless replays of the Goonies and Top Secret. In their final years at high school, the floor became a sprawling raft of teenagers, sleeping off whatever booze they could get their hands on until they didn't want to go to Anglesea anymore. There'd been the Gold Coast, a trip to Bali, a year in London where she'd met Elliot, and now there was Noah and JD, as incongruent as each other in the intersection of the past and present. JD hung his sunglasses from the neck of his t-shirt, a smile on his tan face, as he waited for his eyes to adjust, so at ease in the world, so different to Elliot. You left this last night. He held up her cake plate. The girls ate the rest before we got up. Best breakfast ever, they said. Her face relaxed into a smile. She was coming to associate with JD. Wish I could eat mud cake for breakfast. Hey, JD! Noah's eyes were full of excitement, and Heidi didn't know if it was missing a shower, the unexpected appearance of JD. We're going to the beach without a shower. You have a shower before going to the beach? Not anymore, Heidi said, and reached down for the swimmers and towel in Noah's hand. Where are the girls? My parents took them to Lawn for a picnic. I thought perhaps I could take you and Noah out for brunch. Brunch? She couldn't remember the last time anyone asked them out for a meal. Now 2 in the space of 24 hours? If you're busy. No. It's not that we're busy. It's just, why don't I take Noah up to the bouncing cushion and let you have a shower in peace? Heidi laughed and ran a hand through her messy hair. You don't know how good that sounds. Maybe while you're gone, you'll think about coming to the surf club tonight with me. They've got a live band. Oh, I. My folks offered to have Noah. The old man would love to have him over again. I'm a bit of a disappointment, producing three daughters. Can I, Mum? Please, I want to go. His small body wiggled and he started to jump around. Please, Grandad Keith rocks. Heidi nodded her fingers together. I don't know if I can ask them to do that. Please, 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 you didn't ask, JD said. They offered, but Mum, Noah, please just give me a moment. Hey, Junior, what do you think? Would you like to hang with Grandad Keith while I take your mum out? Sure. You should go, Mum. Just no kissing. He screwed his face up. Heidi blushed and looked away. Only dancing. JD held his hand up, thumb crossed over his little finger. Scouts on her, mate. Heidi caught the spark in JD's eye, though, and her heart stuttered. Let's take it one deviation from the norm at a time. Do you know my mum does statistics? In the department, we joke they're sadistics. Is there any way of strengthening the odds you'll say yes? Her blush deepened, pulling her into the past again. How Harry's summer best friend had courted her, if you could call it that, on the same steps. I think you've already done a good job of increasing your probability. Her smile was genuine, easy. His, in return, coursed through her body like warm honey spiced with chili. Noah tugged at JD's hand. Can we go bounce? The familiarity between them drew her in a different direction, stirring her guilt. If you'd been a better wife, Noah would have had this all the time. If you'd tried harder, Elliot wouldn't still be. Heidi? Huh? Sorry, an hour? And then brunch? What kind of wife? Yes, she said, too emphatic for the conversation, barely defiant enough to silence the guilt. But in an hour, it'll be lunch. And an hour closer to you saying yes to going dancing. A cool evening breeze blew across the river, tangling the hair Heidi had left loose around her face. She walked with JD past the surf shop, the general store, the Melaleuca Gallery, and onto a new strip of holiday apartments. This used to be old California bungalows and vacant paddocks, Heidi said. You ever get the feeling of dislocation when somewhere you used to know really well has changed when you go back and you just feel lost? It felt like that when Ruth died, JD said. That's why I sold the house. Everyone said I was crazy and I would regret it. But every time I walked into a room and she wasn't there, and I realized no matter how long I waited, she wasn't walking back in, I lost her all over again. Elliot had been everywhere too, a domestic suffocation where Heidi struggled to draw enough breath to keep going, slow drowning in his anger and despair. And when she left, she was grateful their new home had no trace of him, just the moments he darkened the front door for his weekends with Noah, ignoring his son to hyper-focus on her until he realized she wasn't coming back, and he stopped taking his sons for weekends. And eventually, Noah forgot. Heidi pointed to the strip of fancy shops and more holiday apartments ahead at the bend in the Great Ocean Road. They used to be the Three Kings Milk Bar and Takeaway. I remember being tiny and bouncing on the trampolines next to it 20 cents ago. There was a hardware store on the other side, and now it's more holiday apartments. Heidi sighed. I'm sorry, I talk too much. I'm kind of starved for uninterrupted adult conversation. JD took her hand and squeezed it. I know the feeling. Heidi waited for him to let go. His fingers snaked through hers, the sensation of being the smaller hand in the grasp foreign, but good, right. He smiled at her, and for the first time since Noah came along, she gave herself permission to fall into the moment and forget everything else. She squeezed his hand back. They walked on in silence to the bend, where the music from the surf club filtered down from the dunes. You know what? I don't care if the band's shit, and I don't know the songs, Heidi said, her old spark igniting. For a few hours, I just want to pretend this is all there is. Not that I wish, oh shit, I mean, excuse my language. It's okay, Heidi. I know what you mean. Come on. The band worked its way through the usual 80s hits. Video Killed the Radio Star, Karma Chameleon, Billie Jean, America, Africa, and Take on Me. Heidi grinned as she drank her beer, dancing on the spot until the opening bars of Footloose spurred her into action. We're dancing, come on. She took the stubby from JD's hand and half danced, half dragged him onto the crowded dance floor. In the bouncing, sweaty mass, she lost herself, becoming one with the music. The thrill of JD's body shadowing hers, inching closer and closer. When the crowd screamed the iconic "Cut Loose" refrain with the lead singer, JD grabbed her hand and spun her around and around. He dipped her backward at the end of the song, the two of them breathing hard when they came upright and face to face. The pared back version of the Thompsons twins' Hold Me Now washed across the crowd, shifting the tone. JD slipped his arm around her, pulling her close to him. Heidi rested a hand on his broad shoulder and let him take her other hand in his. They moved slowly. The strict dancing position dissolved until Heidi had her head against his shoulder, eyes closed, awash in his comforting proximity. Her lips mimed the lyrics, body swaying with his. If only she could stay here with him like this. Thundering EDM replaced the final fading chord, and the crowd dispersed. She imagined Australian backpackers dancing to the same song in London clubs and through endless nights on Ibiza. 6 years ago, she could name all the electronic dance songs. Now she had no idea. JD relaxed his embrace, dropping his hand to her lower back to keep her close. Another beer? Heidi nodded. I've got to go to the loo. I'll meet you on the deck. A damp, red-faced reflection scrutinized her from the pitted mirror over the basins in the washrooms. Her guilt stirred. What kind of mother leaves her son with strangers to go out dancing and drinking with a strange man? She splashed water on her face, her foundation long gone, and scraped the damp hair back from her face. What kind of wife chases? Fuck off, she mouthed, glaring at her reflection. The guilt, which always sounded too much like her ex-mother-in-law, shut up. She forced a grin to her lips. A funhouse string of reflections winked at her. So many young Heidis from before, when she didn't know how far a human could break. If only Heidi slammed the washroom door and strode into the crowd, seeking what her guilt told her she could not have. JD sat by the deck railing, two stubbies on the table, frosting with condensation. The ocean stretched indigo and glassy beyond the scrubby cliff. Main beach, their beach, sprawled wide and empty at low tide. A roaring onshore break competed with the drum and bass, echoing her heart's driving rhythm. She exhaled the last of her inhibitions and dragged the chair opposite JD around to sit beside him. I haven't had this much fun in I don't know how long. She took a long drink from the stubby and considered how much honesty she dared. That she found the way he parented as sexy as his ass in his fluoro green board shorts. The way his waist narrowed, and even though there was grey in his short hair, his stomach was as flat and arms nicely bulked as men 20 years his youth. The kind of buff surfer she'd have lusted after, without success, until she turned 16. I've watched you, how you... Oh, Heidi, come on, she coached herself. Hold it together, or he'll see straight through you to what you really want. How you parent and be friends to your girls, how you've got it all together. And I realized I'm fucked up. She put her hand up to stop him interrupting her. Oh, Christ, why do I have to point out I'm fucked up? She took a steadying breath. JD, seeing you parent has given me hope, and I thought I was all out of hope. You're not fucked up, Heidi. He slipped his fingers through hers and stroked her palm with his thumb. You're beautiful and brave, and Noah adores you. When I saw you on the beach that day, for the first time in years, I felt something. Something I thought died with Ruth. He leant closer. And every time I see you, every day we spend together, when you say goodbye, I fear you'll walk away and I won't see you again. I see you and it's like she paused, her heart hammering. You're so full of life. I just want to. She kissed him before she lost her nerve. His lips yielded to hers. Electricity forked through her body, shocking her out of the long, numb sleep she'd stayed in to keep herself safe. His hand caressed the back of her neck. The beer on their tongues became a shared sweetness. His sandalwood aftershave mixed with the salty air, and she wanted more than a kiss on the surf club deck. She wanted him naked and alone and all hers, his hands exploring her burning skin. But as they pulled apart, the guilt tore free. A whiplash of turbulent feelings stole the oxygen, returning the suffocation she thought she'd escaped. You should have loved him more, like you loved Noah. Her seat pitched backwards as she stood suddenly. I'm sorry, she fled through the glass door, back inside, unable to face the complexity of what she wanted. The human tide swallowed her. Hysterical laughter and leering faces zoomed in and out as she stumbled in different directions, trying to find the exit. You'll ruin him just like you did Elliot. Lost, riven by panic and guilt, she careened through the chaos, trying to remember how to breathe. Heidi! She moved faster. If she moved faster, she could outrun him. She could outrun it all. If only her lungs would fill. Heidi! JD pulled her into his side and steered her out of the melee, into the foyer. What did I do wrong? Nothing. It's me. I don't understand. He tried to brush the hair off her face. She turned away from his touch and the reminder of what she couldn't have. Please talk to me. Heidi wasn't having that conversation here, where the guy manning the sign-in desk could hear. She shoved through the main doors, and even though her pelvis told her running was for someone who hadn't pushed a baby through it, she sprinted down the hill, only stopping when she got to the road. JD caught her hand just as she went to cross. Heidi, stop. Please, talk to me. Heidi! I thought I could do this. I wanted it so badly, but I can't. I'm sorry if I came on too fast. She stared at the initials drawn in the concrete, unable to meet his eye. I need to go get Noah. She shook his hand free. Alone. But you need to forget me, JD. Don't come to the van. Don't find us at the beach. Heidi! He ran across the road after her. Please, stop. I lied to you, JD, she said, spinning around to face him. I'm still married. But I thought, I know, and I let you. Heidi dropped their bags beside the annex door and went back inside for her keys in the esky. Why do you need keys? Noah asked. We're going to a different beach today. Point Road night. Awesome boats and rock pools. It's Grampy's favourite beach. Will JD be there? She passed him the keys. How about you pop the boot and put the bags in? Sure, Mum. The way his sure mimicked JD's stabbed at her. A minute later, Heidi heard voices near the car and went out. Noah beamed. Look, Mum, it's JD and Grandad Keith. He's not your granddad, Heidi snapped, walking between Noah and JD, keeping her back to Noah and lowering her voice. I thought I made it clear. I don't want you here. Noah looked up at her, confused. Mum? Go on, sport. JD tells me you're pretty good on the bouncing cushion, said Keith. Want to show me? Noah looked between her and Keith caught. She'd do anything to save Noah from a bitter scene, afraid of what he remembered from her and Elliot. Half an hour, okay. Yes! Noah ran and jumped beside Keith's slower, older stride. JD waited until they were out of earshot. Noah told the old man his dad was sad and got sick and had to go live somewhere else to get better. His eyes held onto hers. Why didn't you tell me? Heidi swallowed hard, fighting to keep her composure. There was no recrimination in JD's voice, but the idea of talking about her ex undid her. She'd already cried an ocean of tears for him, for Noah, for everything lost. Elliot is Noah's dad. We met 8 years ago in London. He was funny and talented and had all this zest for life. And it wasn't so much that Noah was unplanned, more it was just easier than we thought it would be. I have friends on their third and fourth rounds of IVF. Heidi leant against the car. They tell you having a kid will expand your love, will bring you closer together, but Elliot he was jealous of Noah. He didn't like the way it changed us. Noah didn't sleep. I had to go back to work when he was 6 months old. I was tired all the time. I didn't have it in me to be what Elliot needed. Heidi shielded her eyes from the sun. Clouds gathered on the horizon, promising a cool change later. It would have been easier if he'd just hooked up with one of the girls at work to get his needs met. Instead, Elliot swung from crushing depressions into manic furies. I see all the warning signs of bipolar now, but back then I had a little boy who just started walking. Funding cuts were threatening my job. I was barely surviving. Then Elliot got sacked. It turned out his job was the only thing anchoring him, and without it, he became even more unpredictable. I tried, I did, but I had to keep Noah safe. I had no choice. JD's expression remained gentle, understanding, as she unpacked the betrayal she swore everyone could smell on her like dog shit. He came for Noah that morning, and I wouldn't let him go. A year earlier, one of the guys he grew up with drove his car into the main irrigation channel and killed himself and his 2 kids. I read about that, JD said, and rubbed his eyes. Oh, I didn't understand it then, and I don't understand it now. Elliot hated himself, Heidi said, and he hated Noah. And you, Heidi? You said you're still married. She reached out a toe to draw a line of dots in the dirt. It's a dog act to divorce your husband when he's in full-time care because he didn't quite kill himself. She scrubbed the dots out. My in-laws hate me. They blame me for what happened because it's easier to do that than accept their perfect son was flawed. I'm so sorry, Heidi. Not as sorry as I am. She walked back into the annex and sat in the caravan door, bare feet on the worn seagrass matting. Next year it would be gone. Her father had finally capitulated to building a permanent aluminium annex, room for her and Noah, and the family Harry looked like he was keen on having now. He was married. She admired her brother for still believing in love, despite all she'd gone through. In years to come, Noah would have cousins to play with. They'd fight over who slept on the top bunk. They'd out-cheat each other at and binge-watch their favourite movies. I like you, Heidi, JD said. Being with you is like the sun coming out when you thought it was gone forever. There wasn't enough space in the caravan door to sit beside her. He knelt and took his hat off, running his hand through his short hair, the grey less obvious in the half-light. And I know there is more to what you're telling me than what you're telling me. He laid the cap and his sunglasses on the floor beside him. What do you want? He rubbed at his stubble chin. Not what's best for Noah, or your ex, or whoever you think has more say in your life than you have. What do you want? Heidi rested her head against the aluminium doorframe. I don't know. For years I just wanted things to be better. She pushed her toes into the seagrass matting's roughness. I don't know what you want, but I know you look happy, peaceful on the beach. You come up grinning after you've dived under the waves, and on that dance floor you looked fierce and kind of wild. It's like you didn't have a care in the world. But I do, and that's the problem. JD touched the top of her big toe, brushed the dirt off it. Everyone has a right to start again. Heidi thought of Elliot, confined to a bed in a nursing home, the mush he tolerated sometimes and the feeding tube when he couldn't, the adult nappies he lived in when he never once changed Noah, and how there was something of him still in there, trapped inside a body he'd destroyed. Heidi, it's summer. Come back to the beach with us. Come over for barbecues. Let's go for bushwalks. I won't ask you for anything. I don't expect anything, but if you want something more, I'd like that too. He stood and pulled her to her feet. In a few weeks, when we go home, that's it. That's okay. Her hand felt small in his larger one again, an anchoring disparity, one she wanted to grab tight to, but I don't want to lead you on. I choose you for now. What do you want, though? I just... She looked to the plastic annex window, rolled up to let the air in. She'd once sat beneath it, while everyone else was out and had done something she'd been waiting summers for. Had Harry's summer best friend kissed her? Or had she kissed him? All she remembered was she'd taken his hand, as she took JD's now, and pulled him down on the same seagrass matting. It was the same fluttering tumble turn in her stomach when she sat cross-legged, closed her eyes, and gave herself over to summer's possibilities.